Thanks, Alexandra. What a wonderful introduction. John Ridley, friends of the workshop, distinguished guests, of which you all are that, of course. It's my pleasure to be associated with tonight because this is a very important project for a very important building, the Sir John Monash Centre in Villa-Bretonneux. Can I ask you a bit of interactive? How many people have been to the Solomon over there? Okay, well, I'm not going to go into detail because I'll probably end up crying at some of the things that happened over there that we won't. I'll briefly refer to those. What I want to do tonight is actually talk about the whole life and legacy of John Monash. I won't say the whole because I could be here till tomorrow morning. But he is a man that I believe, and a lot of us share, that he's Australia's greatest citizen, although what most people remember him for is as a military leader, which I'll refer to later on. I want to congratulate all associated with the design and the work of making this too. It's just magnificent. John Monash was truly a Renaissance man and a humanist. His contribution to Australia includes renowned, just listen to this, engineering, law, education, community services, business, the arts, science, medicine, as well as his reputation of being an outstanding military leader. A true nation builder, which is often forgotten, if ever known. He was also a man who was feted and lauded by kings, especially George V, presidents, prime ministers, and in fact one prime minister called Lloyd George wanted to replace Commander-in-Chief Haig if the war had gone into 1990. That may have happened by being colonial and Jewish and German background. I'm not sure if the British High Command would have allowed that. He also had a great love for the common man and was respectful of all people, even his enemies, and as even common man from the lowest walks of life. My wife worked for 20 years at the SEC, and the legend of John Monash, the way he talked to people there, was just incredible. He was a great wordsmith, for example. If any of you have written some of his writings, including Australian victories in France and his diaries, mainly which he wrote to his wife, you will know what a command of English he had. He actually wrote 75,000 letters in his life. He did sleep, by the way, too. As well as books such as this, and academic articles. And many of his quotes really have become great quotes in history. But, despite the fact there's a university, hospitals, highways, a freeway, clinics, ships, bridges, buildings, the Rotary Club, there is a John Monash Rotary Club, there is a John Monash RSL Club, I think in Adelaide, Suburbs Atrium, annual orations, named the Monash Oration. There's one on Jerilderie next week that a few of us in this room are going to. A valley at Gallipoli called Monash Valley, and soon a federal electorate. Guess where that is, by the way? Right here, Melbourne Ports, if it gets voted in. The fact is, the name Monash has become generic. It's a name, and so many people don't know why it's called Monash. How I learnt this most was over that project. When I found out, one of the Deputy Vice-Chancellors said, you know, most of our students at the university think it was named after the freeway. The freeway wasn't built there, and of course it was only renamed by Kenneth Monash. I didn't believe this, so I did an off-the-cuff research program, interviewed 23 people at random on the campus, and found only 3 knew it was named after a man called John Monash. Guess what? 2 of those were Scotch College graduates who were brought up on John Monash. and another one was an international student from Hong Kong, a delightful young lady. We have a problem, don't we? The greatest man in Australia is a forgotten man. So my passion in life is to play my part in to re-educate distance. So who is this man, John Monash? He was born on the 27th of June in 1865 in Dudley Street, West Melbourne, not over in Germany, as a lot of people think. To Prussian Jewish parents, actually they're from a town where General Lyndell was just next door. And he was special from the very, very start, because the official birth certificate of John Monash says he was born 3 days earlier than he actually was. He was obvious from a very young age. He had huge intelligence, desire to achieve, a huge work ethic, inquiring mind, wants to know everything, confident, needed to excel, and his hobby at age 8 was getting professors from universities giving him complex mathematical problems to solve. He also became a very accomplished pianist, and in fact performed at Melbourne Town Hall, not at age 8 I might add, and especially Chopin was his forte, which his mother loved. In 1874 he moved to Jerilderie. His father, Lewis, managed a general store up there, and he moved up there and started to appreciate the Australian bush and the outback. He had a wonderful teacher called William Elliott, who recognised he was dux at the public school, recognised he had to come back to Melbourne to get a better education, and he ended up coming back for the 1878 year at Scott College, where he matriculated at 14, but was advised to come back, and he was co-dux the next year, dux in maths, first class honours, French and German. He didn't have much interest in sport, although when he was at university he used to love going for Sunday walks from Hawthorn up to the Dandenongs and back, and on holidays he was renowned to go walking to Mount Buffalo. To Mount Buffalo, quite hard. At university in 1882 he began an arts degree with the intent to become an engineer. I know that's issues there, and a lawyer. It could have been medicine. In fact, one of the medicos in the First World War made a remark that I was talking to John Monash about medicine one day, and I realised how much I didn't know about it. He fell into a typical first-year trap, extracurricular activities, going to the theatre, read books in the State Library rather than attended lectures. He visited law courts to hear submissions, Parliament to hear them talk. He had a thirst for knowledge. He belonged to debating societies. He wrote newspaper articles. He had painting lessons. He did a carpentry course and wrote papers on numerous topics, including Shakespeare. He coached matric students, enjoyed whiskey and girls, but I'm not going to go into that. As a result, he failed first year. It was a wake-up call, disgusted with himself, went back next year and he still failed Latin. In 1883, he set up the University Union, produced Melbourne's University Review magazine as a journo, if you like. In 1884, he joined the militia of the newly formed University D Company 4th Battalion, and he was the first to pass an exam for sergeant. But in 84 he had to suspend because his father's business had failed and they were very poor and he had to go out to work. And his mother died the next year, which affected him dramatically. His sister, by the way, was taken to PLC. In 1886, at the age of 21, he worked on the Princess Bridge. Ended up being a consulting engineer there. Then the Queen's Bridge, the Merry Creek Bridge. Even though he didn't get his engineering degree until 1891. He became in demand as an expert witness, mainly in engineering type subjects. In fact, you could call it patent attorney nowadays. Hadn't got his law degree yet. He spent time in Queensland, New South Wales and Western Australia and became renowned for his case preparation. In fact, Sir Isaacs once said that any legal practice that does not hire John Monash as an expert witness should be sacked for incompetence. In 1888, he was the chief engineer for the Outer Circle Railway. 1890, he was engaged to Victoria Moss, married in 1891, and unfortunately it wasn't that happiest of marriage, and they separated, but they did get back together. In 1891, Bachelor of Civil Engineering, 93, Master of Engineering, daughter Bertha was born, and in 95, he finally passed Latin, and he got a Bachelor of Arts in Law. So he had a foundation already as engineering, law and the military. Engineering was his main career, of course. And by 1914 he was very successful, and today be considered a multi-millionaire. His engineering firm, Monash and Anderson, was given, or they were able to get the licence for reinforced concrete, the Monia system, a well-known name nowadays, and he partnered with David Mitchell, the father of Nellie Melba, to form the Monia Pipe Company Proprietary Limited. The Anderson Street Bridge is renowned as his finest work. Finest ford in Geelong, Creswick, King River Bridge, Tasmania, 8 bridges in Bendigo, in Barron, Water Tower and Echuca, that I'm sure a lot of you have seen, wheat silos, about 145 works, many of which are still standing today. In law, he was on about 100 cases, lost one, although some say he never lost, but he did in fact, because the judge was actually paid off to not give him the case. 100 cases, 99 out of 100 is not bad. In the military, he progressed through the ranks and was given the command of the intelligence corps. In fact, a peer of his at Scott, your one-year head, Mackay, who I may refer to later, suggested Monash to go into intelligence, and he was promoted to colonel. Some of the other things he did at this stage, before the war, he was prominent in the Boy Scouts movement, president of the newly formed Melbourne University Graduates Association, president of the Victorian Institution of Engineers, on the board of Wiltshire's, Worcestershire source, elected member of the Melbourne University Council. He knocked back and offered to be Chief Commissioner of Police and Chairman of Luna Park, and on the select committee for the Rhodes Scholarship. So he was a man who achieved, did much, and still slept. The war years. Now we remember that the Australian Army, by and large, were volunteers. And to put it into context, this Great War, it is estimated that up to, including civilians, 37 million people died as a result of the Great War. Australia's army was volunteer, and out of our population of 4.5 million, 417 enlisted, of which 330,000 got on the boats and sailed. Of those 330,000, 215, nearly 216,000, or 65% became casualties. And just under 60,000, or 18%, died. This does not include the very damaged souls who returned and just could not cope. Alcoholism, violence, family breakdown, and 60,000 came back with syphilis. Now, it's in the news now, of course, with what we're reading with PTSD. That was called shell shock in those days. And incidentally, Monash was one of the first to recognise that shell shock was not cowardice. I hate the business of war, the horror of it, the waste, the destruction and the inefficiency. He arrived at Gallipoli on the second day, 26th of April, a day before his 50th birthday. and he stayed until evacuation. He then went with the 4th Brigade to Sewers and held the first Australian Day, ANZAC Day commemoration for the soldiers at Sewers. So already he recognised the importance of what Gallipoli was, and he referred to that many times. He was then made Major General of the 3rd Division, training in England, going to the Western Front. He had 2.5 hours with George V, who came down to inspect the division, and those 2.5 hours were very important. And the famous quote, in their 2.5 hours, George V was saying, "If we win the war," Monash turned the impudence of the man to George V. "If we win the war," he won over George V, because he was a man who showed confidence and decision-making about winning the war for the Empire, although Monash was very much Australian. He didn't take part in Fromelles, which was the first battle where Aussies fought on the Western Front, a disaster. He didn't take part in Bullecourt, where tanks were involved for the first time, most of which got bombed and broke down. And he wasn't at the killing fields of Pozieres, which those of you who've been to will know how disastrous those days were. However, he went in 1917 to Messines, and he took on board, "I'll get that ridge," which he did, and he started to earn his stripes with the Aussies and broadsigned with 3 divisions and the New Zealanders. They brought together the ANZAC spirit again, and then Passchendaele, which everyone said it was going to be a disaster, and you've seen pictures of the mud and the slush that they had to go through at Passchendaele. Is a disaster. He was knighted in 1918. He took over from Birdwood as Commander of the Australian Army Corps, with brought all together the 5 divisions, and the big battle it really earned his straps was the Battle of Fromelles, which he planned for 90 seconds. It took 93 seconds. It wasn't the first, but he successfully used infantry, tanks, the artillery and aircraft, and planned it exactly how they worked together. It was also the first time that non-American commander commanded American troops, much to the chagrin of Pershing, who didn't want it to happen. It changed attitudes, this battle, that going on the offensive, according to the plans by Monash, gave hope to the Allies that they could win. It wasn't a big battle, but it changed attitudes. They knew that Ludendorff was planning a major offence, which had happened in the 21st of March, with an extra 1 million troops from the Russian front, and they knew it was on a 70-mile front, but the spearhead was going to be in the Somme near Villebretonneuf. Generalissimo Foch knew and deliberately put the Aussies right in front of that, where they were going to land. It was going to be the war of annihilation, as Ludendorff told all Germany, till they hit Monash and the divisions. He halted them on the 27th to the 29th of March and even gained some ground. Monash then, and that gave confidence to all the Allies, especially the French, and Haig, the Commander-in-Chief, who then started to use Monash in all the major conferences about what to do in the future, usually reserved for field marshals and army generals, but Monash was included. He submitted plans for an offensive using the Aussies and the Canadians on his right under General Currie, who is almost equal in kudos as Monash. That was submitted. It was slightly altered by Rawlinson, Monash's boss, and Haig, but essentially it was Monash's plans. Don't let anyone tell you he did not do that. He did, and there are moves afoot to try and diminish his role in that. He was essentially Monash's plant for that section of the. So on 8th of August began the offensive called the Battle of Amiens. 12 kilometres they took that day. Unheard of, 12 kilometres. Now, that was a great success. 2,000 guns at 4 o'clock in the morning. On the minute, fired. The Germans wondered what hit them. And unfortunately, and I will take the German side, on that day, 108,000 German people were killed or severely wounded. So it's not just the Aussie young fellas wishing to go home to mum. It was the poor young German kids who were conscripted, and they were starving as well. Terrible. Terrible. They then pressed forward. Mons and Quentin. I can't pronounce the French properly, but we call it Saint Quentin. Yeah, something like that. That was Roland said it was the biggest feat of the war. It was hand to hand, and it was not with tanks and all this new industrial warfare. No one believed that they could be taken. Monash took it. There was then a counter-offensive, and they retook it. And that was virtually the end. The Germans realised the war was lost and they were retreating. Did Monash stop? No. Push forward, forward, forward. Needed more American troops because our guys were suffering horrible. Not as bad as 1916 or 17, I might add, but their resources were getting weaker. And they broke the Hindenburg line, or the Siegfried line, as the Germans used to call it. And then the Germans sued for peace. So, whilst the Aussies and Monash didn't win the war alone, even though Roland Perry, in his book, and probably of all the Monash books, that's the easiest one to read. It's not the most detailed, that the Searles one is. The outsider who won the war. True, he was an outsider, but you'll never hear me or Saluting Monash Council saying that he alone, the Aussies, won the war. That's quite unfair to the Allies. After the war, he was put in charge of the demobilisation of Australian troops, 160,000, and 15,000 wives and children, etc. 18 months it was going to take, so Billy Hughes hoped, because there was an election coming up and he knew Monash was the most popular man in Australia. If he came back and decided to go for government, Billy Hughes wouldn't be there anymore. So he kept him there. It only took 8 months, and Monash put all the guys on train, those who wanted to, did training so they could get a job back in Australia. And he also wrote Australian Victories in France, which is still available in the bookshops, which describe his tactics. Now, it's often put down as he's exaggerating his self-promotion, there are mistakes. Charles Bean, who didn't like Monash at all, and it was rather anti-Semitic. Keith Murdoch wasn't a great fan either, but I won't go into that. Bean actually said there were mistakes, but he never itemised what those mistakes were. Incidentally, in 1950, Bruce has got the book. Where's Bruce? You've got the book, haven't you? I have. Being accused in 1950 said he was wrong about Monash. So I just want to say about the soldier's soldier. These young guys, matron and nurses, etc., who went over there, what was different about Monash's leadership? Remember that the British way was cannon fodder. Over the top, rush the trenches, get mowed down by machine guns and artillery, and if you really want a horrible book to read Peter Charlton's Posieres. If you can finish that book, I nearly could. It was absolutely disgraceful. But Monash was different. He understood leadership. Not leadership as a role, but leadership of people. He used, I don't know if he used this because it came later, but Eisenhower said leadership was the art of getting what you want, when you want it, because other people want to do it. So it's not just about ordering. Good leaders create followers. And I've got letters from descendants of diggers who say, my father, my uncle worshipped Monash. They would do anything for it. Why? Because they knew their best hope of getting back to see Mum was to get the war over quickly and at the least risk of being killed, and they trusted Monash as their leader. That's the essential thing. Birdwood was very popular, and he used to go down and pat the guys on the back, well done, stiff up the lip, but you know, it's about getting back home. Monash realised that. Monash knew how to fit the right man for the right job. He upset Pompey Elliott because he didn't make him or didn't recommend him to be a divisional leader. He was too impulsive, although a great soldier and leader. He always looked for a better way to ensure success. He made sure that his troops had rest and recreation. They were well fed and fit and well trained, the best trained of any of the troops. He protected the men. These tactics of using the industrial warfare of tanks and planes and heavy artillery was to try and save casualties of his men. And I won't go into the tactics, how he did that, but it was very obvious. Not cannon fodder anymore. His planning was maps, AWM, War has his maps up there, the fine detail, the intelligence that he used to get. He used to know every bump. He even made models of the field so they could see the bumps, etc. And then his plans, he saw his major generals and told them what to do. Everyone in the force knew exactly what they had to do, when they had to do it, and I mean when, to the second, not approximately, to the second they had to do that. He's fine, he's engineering lawyer. See? The old commanders who went through Sandhurst, and I've been to Sandhurst, wonderful place, but they were brought up in cavalry and horses, which did a great job in the Middle East, but they didn't understand the industrial. Hay didn't understand artillery. He had first aid points. He brought the field hospitals closer to the troops. He recognition and success. He promoted on merit. The English way is promote on class. Who cares about the poor lower classes? You know, they're the ones you send out to get killed. He had a vision to win, and he knew how to impart it for shortening the war. But he was ruthless. At Mount St. Quentin and Hindenburg, he insisted that some of the troops who were promised leave fought, and in fact some went on mutiny because of it. So he knew they were close to winning, and his ruthless came out. As I said earlier, he recognised shell shock was not chaos. He trusted men and they trusted him. Post-war. Monash was lauded and accepted as being the finest military commander in the First World War. Lloyd George, Montgomery, many others, Foch, many others said, no, Monash, if Monash had been made Commander-in-Chief earlier, the war would have been over earlier with less casualties. But he stopped the war in 1918, or had a major part. He was rewarded with 2 knighthoods from Britain, one of which, the first one was invested on the 11th of August at Chateau Berton. Many of you would have seen the photo of that. He was actually given that knighthood the first of the year. The US gave him the Distinguished Service Medal. France gave him the Legion of Honour and Croix de Guerre. and Belgian Gay Order of the Crown and acquired a gird. Guess what? Nothing from Australia. Nothing. Billy Hughes saw him as a threat, was jealous, at a famous reception at Buckingham Palace. Monash was set opposite Churchill with Rudyard Kipling, and I forget the press baron next to him. Inside of the king, Billy was down straight ahead behind a whole lot of others on the other side. Monash was lauded, banquets in his honour, said Billy got very jealous. And of course Bean, who was anti-Semitic, didn't like it. And some of the Melbourne establishment didn't. They were actually called the Melbourne bastards, accused of French, but he was an outsider, Jewish, German background, didn't go to military academy, was a volunteer, and he did these wonderful things. So he got nothing, not even a letter. The parliamentarians, remember, federal parliament was in Melbourne, right? Parliamentarians said, look, let's bring in Monash and thank him on behalf of Australia. Billy even refused to do that. Birdwood was fated, given a seat in Parliament that he'd go to any time. It was a disgrace. Why am I so passionate about the Saluting Monash Council and what Tim Fisher initiated? We have to do something about this insult. And we've got 3 of us in this room who are on our team. Gary, stand up. Lieutenant Colonel Gary Spencer, Bruce Harvey, and Peter McCall up the back. He's a member of Monash's Rotary Club, ex-president, Rotary Club of Melbourne, which was the first and also still the biggest in Australia. Doing a great job, folks. We have to make this happen and give Monash a recognition for what he was proposed as full general. Stanley Bruce in 1925 even refused that. Scullin in 1929 said, hey look, at least he should be a full general. And he was made to add the disgrace people. Did that worry Monash? Well, probably it did, but we don't know. He never wrote about it. But he got on with life. I'll just read out some of the things he did post-war and mobilisation. He had this famous saying, go out to Monash, you'll see it. In the Border of Engineers Australia, you'll see these words. Adopt as your fundamental creed that you will equip yourself for life, not solely for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole community. So what did he do? First State Electricity Commission. Thanks, John Monash. He was Vice-Chancellor of Melbourne University from 1923 till his death in 1931. He was President, founding member and second President of the first Rotary Club in Australia, the Rotary Club of Melbourne, of which Peter was past President. He had worked on the dome of the State Library. He was Deputy Chairman of the National War Memorial Committee of Victoria. Now, I believe there are 2 icons in Melbourne, the MCG and the Shrine. If Monash had not made a commitment, he was on the Design Select Committee, he helped construct it, he helped raise funds for the Shrine, and he also fought hard against a Napoleonic type of edifice to victory and said, no, the shrine should be there as a sacred place, honouring our fallen, which is exactly what he got. Even the RSL was against him in 1926, but he won through, and as a result, we've got the shrine as it is Monash. Thank you very much. Legacy involved with that. Chairman of the ANZAC Day Commemoration Council. President of the Australasian Association for the Advancement of Science, Vice President of the Australian National Research Council, actually helped raise funds to create what is now called the CSIRO. Thank you, Monash. Board member of the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute, President of the Zionist Federation of Australia for 1 year, and then Israel is starting to get a bit anti-British, so he said no more. He refused presidency of the RSL at a number of occasions. He didn't like the factions within it. Grew shield after. Still there. Chairman of the Royal Commission of the Police Strike. The police strike. We read about the 1923 police strike. What happened? They rang up John Monash. He said, I'll fix it. Rang up Pompey Elliott and Albert Jacker. Right? What they do? Got all their troops together. Strike was over in a couple of days. And you had many other board appointments, for example, a development company that owned the Grand Hotel, now known as the Windsor, and service organisations. You can see what I mean by being a nation builder. He was even in the late 20s asked if the New South Wales right wanted to make him dictator, a fascist leader of Australia. He wrote this magnificent letter, which is in Searle's book, I'm not sure from the others, replying to this force. But he essentially was saying, depend on it, the only hope for Australia is the ballot box and an educated electorate. So, the Saluting Monash Council. We won't accept that Monash, our greatest military leader and probably citizen, was treated so badly and didn't get recognition. I won't go into the reasons put up, but I personally believe it was based on the fact of his cultural background and the fact that he was not regular army. I've got him heads nodding all over the place. We don't want to make an issue of that because I think that's not the one. But let me tell you, some of the arguments that are put up, really, you shake your head. Those of us here today saw a letter written by a warrant officer grade 1, which makes you wonder. So, that's John Monash. I invite you, if you want to come up and have a look at these books. Have I got 5 minutes?
Yep, of course you have.
Thanks, Peter. Good lieutenant. This is my favourite story, which is probably going to take 3 minutes. But this tells you a lot about John Monash. It was related by Sir Robert Menzies about when he was a junior Victorian member of the cabinet. And Monash was still in charge of the State Electricity Commission. There was a lot of aggro, hadn't been profit yet, they needed more money. And this is how Menzies describes it. Monash invaded the cabinet room, and we all stood up instinctively. We all stood up. We were all in the presence of a man we knew was a greater man than we will ever be. He looked around towards the Premier and said, well, Mr. Premier, I gather that the Cabinet has rejected my proposal. He knew that had happened already. Well, yes, I think that's right, Sir John. Well, he said, that can only be because they're utterly failed to understand it. I will now explain it. And he sat there with that rock-like look, his eyes all piercing. And he explained it, and one by one we shrivelled in our places. One by one we became convinced, or at any rate felt we were convinced of the error of our ways. And for half an hour he went on. He explained the things step by step, and we were left silent. And that settled it. There was no more, not another word came out. And so Sir John said, looking at the Premier, well, sir, I take it that your decision is reversed. Indeed, anticipating your approval of my proposal, and so that there will be no delay, I have brought with me, as he pulled out of his breast pocket, the order in council will be necessary for this purpose. And he passed it around, it was signed, and he went out. Magnificent. Magnificent. Now, up the back of the room, there's a brochure on the Saluting Monash Council now drive. Also, there was a rundown summary which I did when I was doing the statue program about John Monash's role in the First World War, which you find interesting, I hope. And there was a fact sheet in there for the reason why he should become a Field Marshal. I invite you to take the place. Also up there is a little form with a letter to the Prime Minister. I'm going to turn the page. I'm asking you to sign your name and email address. I will send a letter out to you which you can fill out and email back to me, and it will go to the PM, I can assure you, as some have already, as some of you of this room know. If I would recommend a book to you, and this is hard, to read about Sir John, Geoffrey Searle's book, which was done in 1982, is my history professor at Monash actually. That was based on exposure to Monash's personal diaries, the first time anyone outside the family could do it. It is the most detailed. There's warts and all, but it gives you the best overview of John Monash. The easiest to read is Roland Perry's The Outsider who Won a War, which I would recommend to you. I hope this has been worthwhile for Headbury waffle on, and thank you very much for listening.